What is going on, guys? Welcome back. My name is Wolfe Glick. I'm the 2016 Pokemon VGC World Champion, and today I'm getting disconnected from Pokemon Showdown apparently, but I'm also walking you guys through a new Pokemon introduced in Generation 7. It's an Alolan form of an old Pokemon, and kind of a personal favorite, Muck. So, Muck is very cool. It's got this really interesting design, first of all, and it gets 3 really cool new abilities. The first one being Poison Touch, the second being Gluttony, and the third being Power of Alchemy, all being really interesting and kind of abilities that we haven't seen a ton of so far, but are definitely interesting. And the other interesting thing here is that it adds a dark typing to its already poison type, removing its weakness to Psychic. It's not weak to Fairy because its poison type covers that. It still is weak to Ground, but overall, it only, as you can see here, it only is a weakness to Ground, which is like really incredible. And its stats are very good as well. So Alolan Muk is a really interesting Pokemon, and I think it has a lot of really cool uses. It has like a pretty decent move pool. It also gets some interesting TMs. Unfortunately, it does no longer learn Thunderbolt or Thunder, which was cool about regular Muck, but Muck is normally more of a physical attacker, so I don't think that matters too much. Lots of egg moves. And then in terms of stats, very good special defense, low base speed, not high base defense, but it's not the end of the world because of its high base HP, and then a relatively decent attack stat. So that's what you need to know about Muck, I think, going into the sets. I think I would like to work offline Showdown. Let's take a look at it. So this is kind of your first set. Muck has a really good move pool in terms of it has like a lot of moves that are really good in the metagame right now. For example, Knock Off and Poison Jab are both phenomenal moves at the moment. And Shadow Sneak I personally like, but if you have Tapu Lele on your team, you can replace this with another move. We'll come into more move suggestions later. But, okay, max HP to maximize overall bulk. There might be a better way of doing that because Muck already has pretty high base HP, but in the calcs that I ran, I preferred using max HP. And then these specific EVs do specific stuff, as you might have guessed, and I will show you what that is right now. So I started off with making sure that Poison Jab without a Poison and then a Shadow Sneak always KOs Tapu Koko. And on the special defensive side, I made that even with a Life Orb and even Electric Terrain, I made Life Orb Tapu Koko Thunderbolt always be a 3-hit KO. So you can always like switch in theory you could always switch in, take a Thunderbolt, take another Thunderbolt and Poison Jab, and then Shadow Sneak and KO. So relatively especially bulky there. In terms of fighting a Pokemon like Tapu Lele, as you can see, you can't Shadow Sneak if Psychic Terrain is up, but if you manage to remove Psychic Terrain, if you like Poison Jab them, this is versus max HP Tapu Lele, so you can see that it's Poison Jab plus Shadow Sneak will always KO, and that's on the max HP variant of bulk, so I think we're more likely to see a less offensive or less defensive Tapu Lele, and so as you can see, a Poison Jab plus a Poison will KO, so that's pretty convincing in my opinion, and it actually has a chance to OHKO even without that. And if you were interested in raising this chance on like no bulk Tapu Lele, you could definitely up this to like, yeah, looks like 84 is a good number to use. So I personally, if you want more offense, you can do that. In terms of defense, this is Garchomp Earthquake. It's going to do a lot of damage, but as you can see, it doesn't KO. But yeah, you definitely need to watch out for Earthquake. This can be mitigated a bit if you use Intimidate or maybe Grassy Terrain. Yeah, with Intimidate, you can see it's not doing that much, but Muck can't really do that much in return to Garchomp, so yeah, it's not the end of the world. And then lastly, this is just versus Marowak. So you do outspeed Marowak, so all these calcs are assuming you've knocked off the thick club. And you can see that you're not OHKOing Marowak, but you are doing a decent chunk of damage, so I think that's pretty convincing. Next set we have is one that I think is kind of more gimmicky, but I feel like I have to talk about it because people know about Minimized Muck. So I don't personally like Minimized Muck, mainly because I tested it actually at the beginning of the format. Like, that was the first thing I tested. I was like, okay, Muck is going to be broken, like, Minimize is very good, and then I realized that, like, there's a lot more, like, burn in this metagame, it feels like. I got burned a lot, and then also people would just save their Z moves, and then I'd, like, minimize to +6, and then they just send it a Pokemon with a Z move, and they'd OHKO my Muck, and I'd be like, why did I spend all that time setting up? Now I lose. So I personally am not the biggest fan of Minimized Muck. I'm sure it can be annoying, but yeah, I don't really recommend it for serious play. But with that being said, here's your minimized set. So I use Black Sludge on this set versus Citrus Berry because the idea is that you're on the field longer, so you are setting up. I like Power of Alchemy on this as the abilities here, but you can use in this set you could use Poison Touch if you wanted. I personally like Power of Alchemy, but it depends on the rest of your team, you know. But I think getting a free Intimidate or resetting your terrain or something can be very beneficial. Or if you pass it something like Inners Out or Stamina or something like that, I think that could also be very good. So EVs here, because of your idea is to, the idea with this Muck is just to set up and then sit around for forever. Oh, by the way, actually I remembered why I don't like this Muck especially. you run into Celesteela and they leech seed you, and then you never beat them, like, ever. So that's the real reason I don't like minimize Muck. Yeah. Anyway, EVs are here to maximize overall bulk. That's the main idea. What does this do? Control tab. Nice. Here again, I aim to make Life Orb, Tapu Koko, Thunderbolt a 3-hit KO again, but this time I had to use more investment because I was using Black Sludge and not Citrus Berry, so it made it harder. If you change the terrain, it does a lot less. If you remove the Life Orb, it does a lot less. So as you can see, Muck is pretty bulky, but yeah, that's kind of the worst case scenario with Tapu Koko, which is like Life Orb, the worst likely scenario. I'm sure there will be specs Tapu Koko somewhere, but yeah, in my opinion, you'll see more Life Orb or more Sash. So that's that. This is Tapu Lele Moonblast versus Muck. You can see it's with Protect, it's not going to 3-hit KO after Black Sludge. That's good. And then this is Gyarados Hydro Vortex versus Muck. So this is max attack. So I just wanted to assure you guys that, like, if you were interested in using Muck and you were worried about, like, Gyarados, who's a common user of the Z Crystal, the Waterium Z, you can still survive that Z move specifically. So yeah, overall, that's the minimize set. The goal is to maximize overall bulk. Man, Shodan, chill. Yes. Cool. And then this set has a little bit more diverse EVs. Actually, I like the way this looks like visually. Like, I like the distribution of these numbers. I think it looks pretty cool. So, 4 speed because I was investing in everything else and it would have been wasted otherwise. Max HP, maximize overall bulk, and then these attack and defensive calculations do specific things. You can see here, this is kind of a similar idea to the minimize set, but now it has curse instead of minimize. Similar problems? No. Sorry, Marcus. Yeah, first of all, the attack. Okay, well, first of all, the special defense. This is, again, same special defense as before. I wanted to say how much, like, with Citrus Berry, because we're back to Citrus Berry on this set, how much it would take to make Thunderbolt a 3 KO. I think we already did that here, but this time I felt a little bit better going for lower odds. So, yeah, even on this set, guys, you could actually lower the special defense to 76 because because it has very, like, good odds. And this is without a nature, even though my Muck does have a nature, because this is the first thing I calced, just to kind of get, like, a general baseline idea. Okay, then for the attack EVs, I wanted to make sure +1 knockoff always KO'd Marowak. And in return for the defense EVs, I wanted to make sure if you knocked off Marowak, like, if you didn't curse and instead you used knockoff on, like, the Marowak, that Flare Blitz was a 3-hit KO without Citrus Berry. Just, like, lower the overall damage output. This is, like, not gonna KO with Citrus Berry. And just to let's get this back, a Lightning or Thick Club, and in return, let's raise our defense 1 stat. So you can see even Boomerang, even like Flare Blitz is. Yeah, you can see that Flare Blitz even only has a 30% chance to 2-hit KO after a curse. So Boomerang obviously going to do a bit more, but because of Citrus Berry, you can heal a decent chunk. Like even in the worst case scenario here, you should have 50% left after the Boomerang, which can miss, or you should have, oh gosh, like 60, closer to 60% left after this, after Flare Blitz, even with like close to the highest roll. So yeah, that's kind of what the defense EVs do. I've already showed you with the special. Oh, actually, I didn't really feel like I needed to invest more in attack. This is obviously Poison Jab versus max HP type of Bulu, and I didn't really think I needed to invest more into attack, but I didn't have a nature yet. So I was like, you know what, let's just raise special defense. This is a curse set. We're going to be raising our own attack, so let's just raise special defense. So that was kind of the idea there. Yeah, I didn't, maybe if I calc more specific things, like maybe Garchomp, I could have come up with something. It really depends on the rest of the team, what you need this set to do and where you want the boosting nature. But I chose to add a special defense nature because you're boosting your attack and defense with curse. So that was that idea. Ugh. And then lastly, in terms of partners, I recommend Gyarados, honestly. It has Intimidate. Muck helps a lot versus the Tapus, and the Tapus are kind of, even though Gyarados isn't weak to Tapu Lele or Tapu Bulu, like, it takes a lot from them, and it can't really do that much in return, especially if you pair them with an Intimidate user. So I really like that Muck helps versus that. And then in terms of other Pokemon, this is a Tapu Lele set. I'm not sure if Scarf is the best decision for a Muck team, but it depends. Maybe it is, actually, because you can just Scarf and like get rid of threats really quickly. But yes, this set was taken from my Tapu Lele video. If you're interested in learning more about Tapu Lele, or you want to learn how to use Tapu Lele, you can check that out. I'll link it in the description down below. Same with this Tapu Koko set, just so I don't have to say that twice. But yeah, Scarf Tapu Lele is really interesting. I think that, like, you're going to want a Tapu with your Muck, I think, just kind of to weaken the other Tapus, because Muck beats most of the Tapu Pokemon. I think that it can help to ensure that your terrain is the one that stays up. So that's kind of why that's why I've recommended 2 of the Tapu Pokemon. I don't recommend you use them together. You could, I guess, but I don't personally recommend it. Yeah. Basically, idea here is that you've got a Scarf Pokemon, or like you've got a very offensive Pokemon, and one of the things that people use to weaken Tapu Lele is their own terrain. And so having a Pokemon like Muck, which just really I've shown you with the Calcs, does a lot of damage to all the terrain setters, I think is very valuable. So that's kind of like why I like Muck here. And then lastly, same idea with Tapu Koko. This set was taken from my video. You can check it out if you are interested in learning more or want other suggestions for sets. But yeah, I think Tapu Koko is a pretty strong mon. Yeah, again, same idea as before. Tapu Lele traditionally hits harder, so normally I would, if you're trying to counter the Tapu Pokemon, I would normally recommend Tapu Koko. But the thing is, because Muck is Poison type, because Muck is Dark type, it's immune to Psychic type attacks, which is kind of the main damage output of Tapu Lele. So it's a personal choice, whatever you want, whatever fits your team better. But yeah, Muck is it's a really interesting Pokemon. It definitely has like a good bit of weaknesses, but I think it definitely still has a place in the metagame. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna give you the update. I'm leaving for London tomorrow, and I also have like a ton of stuff, like an unhealthy amount of stuff left to do before I leave. So I'm really under pressure, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to stock up on videos. So I might make a separate video for London if I have time, just telling you guys like what's going on and stuff. But if I don't, make sure you watch. It's this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The tournament. There'll be a live stream. I'm really excited. It's the first VGC17 tournament of the year, except for some Premier Challenges. It's the first major VGC17 tournament, and it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, the games have only been out for like a few weeks at this point, and it's going to be really interesting to see what plays out. Very different than last year's VGC. I feel very confident saying that it's going to be very different. So I highly recommend you watch it. Maybe you'll see some of these sets in action, but who knows. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, not only can you subscribe, but you can hit the alarm bell. And I actually have no idea what that does, but I think there's an alarm bell, and I think you should hit it. So I recommend it personally. I hear it makes you a better person, and maybe makes you better at Pokemon too. But I digress. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.